Hello and welcome. Our guest today is Randi Johnson, an accomplished attorney and the Chief Growth Officer at Gravis Law. After successfully building her own legal practice, Randi channeled her passion for business and strategy and culture building into helping scale one of the nation's fastest growing law firms while improving the quality of life of her associates. Randi, welcome to the Growth Speech.
Thank you for having me. Really
Our
nice to be
pleasure.
here.
Great to have you here with us. Randy, you had quite a career starting from environmental law and then building your own practice and then joining a fast growing firm. What were some of the chapters throughout the career, maybe, that you want to highlight and some of the lessons that you took away from them?
So I think ultimately my background is how can I use my gifts or my powers for good? There's some strengths we all have, and mine, I hope, is helping people see what's the best in them. And so it started with, as you said, I got my background and certificate at Lewis and Clark Law School for environmental natural resource law 20 years ago, and then went into disability law, which expanded into Social Security and disabled veteran service connected benefits, which then lent itself to some more niche practices that kind of branched out from there as a result of having really deep conversations with the clients and families we were already serving. So that went into special education law and special needs estate planning, guardianships and conservatorships. And I've had the privilege of working in almost all of the environments: big law, medium sized regional firm, solo practice into a small practice, and then now with Gravis. And I can say that Gravis was a perfect next chapter for me because it was sort of all the best things about all the environments and places and things I was already doing, including loving the business of growing the business. And now I have the privilege of helping our attorneys get out there to do what they do best, advocating, working hard for our clients and serving them in the way they need most, and also making sure that they're living the life they want to live. So just helping to see people live out their best and meet their potential.
Hmm. I think one of the maybe shortcomings of the law school is that law school teaches us the law and the practical things, but the emotional intelligence and a lot of work that we do with the client, especially when it's a very close relationship, is something that only comes with the practice. Throughout your career, who were maybe some of the biggest influences on you that helped you learn how to work closely with clients and how to build that emotional intelligence while, of course, supporting your clients?
So when I was in law school, I got to work at the nearby county's public defender's office, and those supervising attorneys were so excellent in helping me grow my ability to be a good listener, to be an active listener, to help someone feel seen and heard, to remove myself emotionally and personally from what someone else is walking through and just kind of
Mhm.
help support being alongside them. That ability to separate but also be a good ally, along with over years developing communication skills, getting it wrong at times, and
Mhm.
finally sort of honing in on my style or the way that works best for me when I'm interacting with someone.
Mm. That's such an interesting point. Do you think in the fields of law, when emotions are high, it's better to be clinical and a little bit maybe distant from the client because then you can see and judge objectively, or do you actually find that it's at some point you need to be emotionally invested in your clients, and how do you balance the two?
So it is a balance. I think it's a yes and. I think there are times where it's best if I don't go along for the emotional ride of whatever's happening, oftentimes over the course of whatever matter we're kind of working on within the scope of representation. There can be highs and lows. And if I kind of follow along with that emotionally myself, it's incredibly draining, and it oftentimes creates blind spots from an advocacy standpoint because I'm only seeing the one way my client wants us to see, and that's often not the best way for us to advocate.
Hmm. Makes sense. You had exposure to smaller firms, to larger firms. You started your own firm as well. What do you think smaller and mid-sized firms need to learn that Big Law knows, and vice versa? What maybe Big Law forgets that you experience as attorney in a smaller firm?
I think what would be very helpful if solos and smalls could learn from mediums and large size firms is consistency, systems, and processes. Oftentimes, when you're just getting started or you don't really know which way's up. You just sort of do things case by case. You take it as it comes. You're only just seeing until the next day or until the next week. Now, some of that is when I have resources available to me at its scale, it's easier said than done than to say to a solo or small, like, you need to have processes and procedures, but there's still place for that. It's just a much smaller version. The consistency really helps with the output, with the client service. If you have a couple of folks on your team, it helps them with follow through in the same way every time, which is the cornerstone of client service. I want to know that the way that this person speaks to me when I call them on the phone and I have a question is the same way this other person is going to speak with me. So the culture and the messaging, everything has to be the same to get it done well, especially if that solo or small has vision to continue to grow what they're building. The only way to do that is to create an operation that can start running without just the owner all the time.
Do you think part of the problem with implementing that in practice for a lot of firms is that almost a knee-jerk reaction to say this case is different, situation is unique, and because of that, because they're so close and again maybe emotionally invested in the case, it's hard to operationalize it and create some systems in place because we want to approach every problem as if it's unique, and it doesn't help those firms build the standard operating procedures for the things they should be doing.
No, and oftentimes when you dig into the problem with an owner with that kind of mindset, you find that it's a fear of giving up control or not really knowing how to see the pattern so that they can say, actually, this is just like this other one. There might be a couple of nuances, but we can actually just move along in the same way. The paralegal can just do it the same way. The receptionist could just do it the same way. And it slows them down. But I think most of the time it is not intentional. I think they're just so narrowly focused, just serving the person or just doing this one thing and getting through the day. It's just when you're in survival mode, it's hard to engage your creativity.
I think that's such a good point, and the way you said it, the survival mode. Because I think in the smaller firms, and again, you had exposure to your firm when you started it, and you're working in a larger firm now. When it's your firm, all responsibilities rest on you. You are the main counsel. You have to do the books. You have to do the marketing. You have to think about everything, and it's really hard to build those things. As you've seen growth at different stages, what were maybe the inflection points when it's worth to have an advisor or somebody else to start giving away control of certain functions in a meaningful way? So it's not too early, but also not too late.
Right. Early as you can. Wrap your mind about seeking a mentor, an advisor, even if it's a occasional consultant that you check in with and say, do I generally have this right? Can we talk about my vision? Does that seem reasonable? What would a timeline look like? And I think just having a sense of humility, frankly, to acknowledge that we don't know what we don't know. I haven't been there. If I'm a brand new solo and I've only ever seen revenue of $250,000 in a year, I don't know what it's like to have a $500,000 law firm. So I've never been there. Maybe we should check in with someone and say, what's it like at 750 or what's it like at $1 million? And that will help you anticipate and prepare for. And I think that moment when that attorney is willing to be curious and seek out some experienced, wise individuals for some advice, are they able to say, this is how others have done it? It's okay for me too. There's some normalizing of asking for help or outsourcing.
And I think it's also important. I like the way you phrased it. Is that a checking in? It doesn't have to be a full-on commitment. That suddenly, if you're a smaller firm, you have to hire a full-time CFO. That might not be necessary, but just having an advisor to come maybe on consultancy basis and look at your operation, point you in the right direction, and maybe say, for the next half a year, you're set. You don't need anybody. You have the projection. But having that check-in, just like you'd have a medical exam, is an important exercise once in a while.
That's an excellent point. I love the analogy. Absolutely. And it's not dissimilar from the experience we had as brand new associates or when we were interning over law school. Like, there's no way we could have learned how to engage the art of lawyering if we didn't have mentors or supervising attorneys to help give us some guardrails and stay safe and keep our clients safe and make sure we're on the right track. This isn't any different. I didn't learn how to be a business owner in law school, unfortunately. I didn't even think that I would ever do that. So seeking out somebody who's already been there, who's done it, who's grown to the size you'd like to grow, or in the location that you'd like to be, or in the practice area you want to grow, is so helpful. It's invaluable. Take my money.
For sure.
I want all the advice. I don't pretend to have all the answers.
I think staying humble and open-minded is definitely a long-term advantage, which brings me to the other side of the equation. What do you think big law firm or just the larger firms tend to forget, or maybe again in terms of the operations, things change? That's maybe some of the lost magic of smaller firms, whether it's a personal touch or something else. What did you observe that you want bigger firms to do more of?
I think you hit it right on the head. It is more of that personal touch. So I think you can swing the pendulum too far in systematizing and operationalizing everything, especially in AI. It's so in the world of AI, it's so easy to automate almost everything. But
Mhm.
there becomes a disconnect. And I think from a relationship building standpoint, for the longevity of, if you want returning clients or you want those clients to remember the experience they had with you so that they would offer word of mouth within their communities or in their network, you have to give them something meaningful. And it's got to be more than a text message status update or an email or even, just something that feels a little bit cold. You can still do some of the things that small and solos do, like handwriting a thank you note. Hey, it was
Mhm.
really great to help you and your family and wishing you all the best. You can still handwrite a note. And it doesn't have to be the attorney who writes the notes. Maybe it's the intern or maybe it's someone else, but you're teaching them the art of service. I think more of that. Actually picking up a phone. Every response doesn't have to be over email. You can actually just pick up the phone sometimes, and maybe not even for a specific purpose. You could just call and say, hey, I'm just checking in. I know this is kind of hard what you're going through right now. Just letting you know we're thinking about you. Nothing to do right now. Everything's okay. Just saying hello.
Being human will always pay it out because I think too many firms as well, they just want to have a checklist. And whenever they do get in touch, whether it's past clients, whether it's intermediaries, I think people can sense when it's very clinical. It's like, oh, they just checking me off the list because they want to get in touch. They want to grab a lunch just to discover potential work. But if it's something spontaneous in the moment, like you said, like a thank you note or something, it really stands out. The question is, how at the larger scale do you encourage maybe your associates to do that and to do that consistently? Do you have something that worked for you when you were growing your practice?
I did. So I had a reasonably sizable volume of cases. I had, let's say, 250 to 300 clients, and we every week would sort of divide them in four because there's 4 weeks in a month or 4 to 5 weeks. We'd separate them out. So let's say it's 20% of our clients per week. Those people, and of course, everyone else is getting served as issues come or there's court or whatever, but those people are sort of the folks we're going to connect with this week. And so those 75 clients or 50 clients, whatever it is at the time, they're going to get a quick phone call or they're going to get a check-in by someone on my team and say, how you doing this month? Anything we can do for you? And even if it was something that me and my team were not equipped to do, I want to be a connector. Something happened, a tree in the windstorm fell down and it, knocked your fence down. Well, I certainly don't do any of that, but I know I've worked with someone who does do that work. Would you like me to make an introduction? Just some way to be helpful and be of value goes a really long
I think that's a great advice. When it comes, one of the things that you mentioned when we were talking earlier is working on improving the quality of life for associates, creating that balance that makes for happier lawyers that tend to be more productive and tend to have better career, more joyful career as well. What are maybe some of the criteria? How do you judge maybe the quality of life of your associates? And what are some of the observations that you noticed that made a lot of difference that you started to implement?
So we're actually trying to start this like from a grow your own standpoint. So we have an internship to associate program, and in it we've structured the program in a way where it's a 10-week program. There are rotations in subject matter, subject area, practice areas, like med students would do, right? And the idea is when we initially surveyed our own team and I surveyed out my peers in various aspects of the legal industry, and I said, how was your law student or internship experience? What did you love? What was a challenge? What did you wish nobody ever has to experience again? And there was a consistent feeling that they got to a place and they got stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe for them it was a family law firm because that's who hired them, or that they thought they might want to do that, and then years go by and they get stuck, but it doesn't really bring them joy and they don't know how to get off because they're so far in. If they started a new practice area, it wouldn't be a lateral move. They'd have to maybe take a demotion or less money for a period of time until they worked back up, and now they have financial dependence, right? So it's not as easy as doing that, and that really degrades one's quality of life. And so our internship associate program, we hope, offers these up and coming next generation attorneys the opportunity to see what they like and what they don't like. And it's been fascinating to watch a student come in their second year thinking they wanted to do X, adamant they didn't want to do anything else, and now they've just graduated and they're like 180.
Mm-hmm.
I actually do want to be in the court. I really love it. It's so great, and in a completely different practice area than they initially thought they'd be most interested in. And my hope is that maybe this new associate doesn't want to do what he's really happy about right now forever, but he's had a little taste of 5 or 6 other things. And if there's a pivot that he wants to make, he would make it sooner than 10, 15, 20 years in after feeling done. Because that we're seeing a lot of attorneys just leave the practice. They're so unhappy. They don't know what else to do. They do something entirely different. And that for them feels like a better exit than being a student again and learning how to do a new practice area. So that is also an advantage of being in a bigger firm. We have that opportunity for our attorneys, even if it's 5 or 10 years in, to say, hey, I am actually interested in this other practice of law. Can I find a senior attorney to mentor me for the next year, 2 years, whatever it takes, so that while I'm maintaining my current practice? And solos and smalls don't always have that flexibility to adapt and grow like that.
That's very interesting. I think probably another advantage of that is that a lot of skills are transferable, and the more you work with different type of clients and different types of law as well, there are some things that you just pick up and you take it from one area of law, one practice area to another, and you become more well-rounded
Yes,
professional,
agree.
better at the job, happier as well. And I think facilitating that flexibility is a really good thing to do.
Yeah, and just allowing the attorneys in your organization to even just explore those things. Maybe ultimately they didn't want to do it and they go back to what they it's like a newfound appreciation for what they were doing. That's also a win.
Earlier, you mentioned AI, and of course, with everything that's happening, we have to talk about that a little bit. I think AI in legal can be very controversial because it makes some work faster, but then there's also a question: is generating more work that didn't have to be done in the first place is counterproductive. With the initiatives that you run in your firm right now, where do you stand on using AI and maybe not using it? What the application that you've seen make a difference?
We're very mindful as we're looking into the future and incorporating AI into our case management and day-to-day operations, not to replace the human element. That will, we feel, will be the demise of what makes legal services so unique. Like we can see you when you're at your worst, or helping you get to a better place than where you are, because not everything's so awful when you need an attorney. Sometimes it's buying something, you're buying a new business, right? So helping you get to the next chapter in your life, we want to celebrate with you. That requires a human element. Where our general position is, let AI do the things that it that a human doesn't need to do. Does it need to copy things from here to there that are templated? Does it need to, send these kind of things that can actually be automated? Calendaring dates, for example. Do I really, if I have a computer system to do those kinds of things and to ensure those dates are calendared correctly, that person, instead of taking the hour documenting times, can spend the time writing a thank you note or picking up the phone. They hear that one of our estate planning attorneys, one of our estate planning clients, one of the spouses has passed away. Well, now our person is free to answer the phone or send them flowers or do these kinds of things, where previously it was a nice to have if someone had the time and the bandwidth capacity to do those things. And we also had court deadlines we had to make sure we're not being missed. So I think it offers us the opportunity to flex our humanity, because there's some rote routine things that can just be delegated out to AI.
That makes a lot of sense. And I agree with that completely because I think there are a lot of really mechanical tasks that AI can take away from us and give us more time to be productive, more thoughtful, more strategic, more supportive towards our clients. There is one case where I would like to play a devil's advocate for a second. In marketing, specifically in copywriting, there is a tradition that if somebody wants to become a good copywriter, they can do this exercise where you take really popular and historically proven to work articles or sales letters or publication, and you manually copy them by hand. And if you continue doing this by physically writing it out, you start to think it through why it was written this way, why it was effective, how maybe it could have been improved. And this is very mechanical exercise, but again, it gives this time to work with the piece and absorb that knowledge.
Mhm.
I think in law, you also had that element when, yes, there are some maybe draft contracts or other preparations that are very mechanical, but there was some benefit of doing that work because as a junior lawyer, maybe being exposed to that type of work for the first time, doing the mechanical work actually gave you more time to soak it in. Do you think some of that is being lost with especially the more increasingly helpful AI will be? And is there another way maybe for the junior lawyers and when you have new associates coming in to still absorb those skills, but without, doing those minutia tasks?
I think that's an excellent question, and something we're sort of grappling with, trying out, and seeing if it sticks. Sometimes as this is moving so fast, we won't get all initiatives right, and we'll go, all right, this part worked, this fail, and then you sort of improve on it. One of the aspects of our internship to associate program is we meet weekly. We kind of talk about a lawyering skill that isn't necessarily a practice area specific issue.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those homework assignments was essentially, use AI to do a thing. Now you do it manually, or you do it manually, then you have AI
Mm-hmm.
do the thing. Let's talk about how you read the thing differently. So I think this is another place where it can be a yes and. I agree with you to some degree that doing the thing weaves it into your DNA. You do get that. It's a practice makes progress, not a perfect, right? It's always going to be a
Hmm.
practice. But in that regard, it's not any different than practicing a sport or practicing a musical instrument. You could probably outsource some of that, I suppose, to improve on that skill. But at the end of the day, like you got to exercise the muscle. So I think a lot of law schools are also grappling with that because they want to teach their students and the next generation how to use those tools so they can be efficient. And we don't want to lose the ability to think like a lawyer, right? Like the professors
Hmm.
would always say, like, I'm teaching you to think like a lawyer. We don't want to lose that. That is what distinguishes us from a pro se individual just throwing their question into chat GPT or wherever they're putting it and them thinking that they have the answer. The fact that I have experience and someone has worked with me to teach me how to think like a lawyer, I can read that answer and go, well, this is nonsense and here's why. But a layperson who hadn't exercised that brain muscle doesn't have that ability to filter that out.
Absolutely. A lot of it is repetition and exercise and judgment. And it's not one and done type of thing as well. Just because you put something in AI once and you get an output, it doesn't mean that it has to be the final consideration or the draft that you use. You can improve on it. You can improve it yourself. You can bring it to maybe somebody more senior that can guide you, and you grow with that. But talking about the judgment, you mentioned that a great deal of focus for you and your colleagues is focused on thought leadership and promoting the firm in that way. Could you just give maybe just a broad brushstrokes how you approach in terms of building the brand of your firm, putting that thought leadership out there? What are the objectives that you have to make sure that that happens regularly in the way it should be going?
Yes. So a couple of years ago, we worked on, okay, what are our goals? How will we know we're leading the way or working towards that, being the employer of choice and helping our attorneys share their knowledge and expertise and background with the world while also growing the brand. And they work together very, well, very, very well. They're complementary and they kind of have to work together. So the Gravis brand needed to be in such a place as a foundational element. We had enough happy clients who had, who review and employees who review. And then we have our individual practitioners who we then started to pitch to speak at
Mhm.
conferences, podcasts, events, do articles, wherever they could get out and share what they know with other people and either teach other lawyers to do those kinds of things and build their skills or to a layperson audience to teach them things, their rights or whatever it is. And the cumulative effect of all of that is an increased awareness of what we do and why we do it. It helps breathe life into Gravis's core values because
Mhm.
we're highlighting the individuals who are living them out every single day. And one of our values is invested in team and community. So we're often highlighting our team out there in the community being impactful in a positive way, whether it's volunteering their time or education or whatever it is. And we find that clients or potential clients when they're calling in looking for will say, hey, I looked this person up. They're already coming with a name in hand to ask for and they've never met this person ever, and it wasn't even a word of mouth. They're checking credibility. Clients are
Mhm.
doing their due diligence now. They want to know that the person's not fake, they're not AI, that they've helped other people like them before. And the only really way to really do that at scale is to put our attorneys out there to demonstrate what it is that they know, why they do it, when they do it, how they do it. Calling an attorney, calling a law firm can be really scary to people. Most people are not interacting with the legal industry, the justice system, often, if at all. And so it takes a fair amount of courage to pick up the phone and ask for help. So if there's any way that we can humanize it, make it feel more accessible, make that person feel like they're calling just another, I'm just a person like you, who knows how to do the thing that you're struggling with. it's okay for you to call me. That's the whole point.
I think that's a fantastic initiative, and we definitely see with all analytics that we are seeing in our end that the behavior of potential clients changes. If 20 years ago somebody gave recommendation to an attorney, the potential client would just call the attorney up, and unless something went horribly wrong, they would become a client.
Right.
That's no longer the case. Everybody will do that extra step to Google the person, to go on LinkedIn to see if there are any awards or publications where that person is mentioned. Is it a real person? Is it somebody they can see themselves working and trusting with? And creating those pieces of evidence of we are real people. This is the work we are doing, and this is our ups and downs. That makes it a lot easier to connect. But I think there are a lot of firms that are very mechanical about the way they try to create thought leadership, but I don't think they talk about just the changes to the law, not their attorneys. So your approach, I think, is a better one. But also, a lot of firms just produce that content that's very clinical. That's very it's not something that emotionally resonates with potential clients. From what you have seen work, what's the difference between just publishing the content for the content's sake and creating the type of thought leadership celebrating your attorneys and their cases in a way that actually creates an impact?
I think clients want to know that the person that they're maybe investing thousands of dollars and a lot of their time with for something that's really important to them is someone who cares. And whether or not it's conscious, if they see that the attorney we've just scheduled them with for a consultation is out there in the community or serving on a community board, working for a nonprofit, doing those kinds of things, the natural next thought is, well, if they care about this thing, they're a caring person, they'll care about me. And there's a story being told, whether they, I mean, clients will fill in the blanks wherever they can. And so we're trying to provide as much information so they don't have to guess. They can say, actually, Chris is a really kind person. He does really care about children. He's going to care about my children when I call about a big problem.
I think showing the evidence that you do care is the best thing to highlight that, because so many lawyers, they say like, oh we are best kept secret, but that's not how it works. It's just the clients will find somebody who more connected with the community, with their issues, and they will go that way. I think another part of effective thought leadership and creating that content is also the way that the language of that communication. Lawyers, as a group of people, tend to be very well educated. They're good thinkers, but sometimes that comes through in a language that's really hard to grasp for somebody who could be in an emotional situation and they just they want to be understood. They don't want to do a lot of work trying to decipher what the person is telling them. How do you strike the communication of your team in a way that the language becomes very accessible for clients? So it's not too hard to engage with that content. It speaks in a language that the clients speak.
Absolutely. It has to feel conversational, right? So when I'm designing an estate plan with a family, with a client, I'm saying my measure of success is if when we get to the end here, you could, not that you would do this, but that you would go to a cocktail party and you could explain to someone else who's also not a lawyer what we just put in there. If you can't do that, I didn't do my job. And so I encourage questions, read it. What does this mean to you? Like I'm almost quizzing them. Do you understand what this says? And they say whatever it is. That's right. You did understand what that said. Great. Let's go to the next part. And the next go, well, not entirely sure. Great. Let's talk about that. And it's really important that they know and they feel so empowered at the end because the documents are not just documents. Like it's a plan for them. It has a life. It will go on with, after they're gone. That's why they came in the first place. So helping them see that a contract is not just a contract. It's a part of it's part of their dreams, part of their objective. And my job is to put that down so they can effectuate whatever that goal is. But it's equally important for them to understand. So encouraging conversation, not shutting people down and saying, well, this is what's supposed to be in there because that's what the law says. That's not a good enough answer. it has to make sense for folks because they're the ones who have to walk away and do something with it. So they need to feel like it was for them, it was written for them.
It's just like I think in the parallel probably to be drawn here in programming and coding, it really forces you to clarify your thinking because if you have the concept in your mind and then you need to create a program that works, you need to code it in a way that actually translates what you're trying to achieve. And I think a good lawyer can do that for their clients as well. It can take what maybe vague ideas they have and help translate that into a very specific plan, apply it to their exact situation.
Yeah. And it can be a really rewarding experience for the attorney too, if they would just sort of allow themselves to go along with the ride and not just feel like they have to be the expert in the room all the time. Yes, we know. They hired you because they know what this says. They also need to know what it says. Help them
Mhm.
understand.
For sure, for sure. Randy, when you think for the second half of this year, what are some of the maybe big goals or objectives that you set for yourself personally and for the firm as well?
Well, for the firm, we're really looking towards our second annual all hands retreat. We're bringing everybody together in Las Vegas this year, and it's an opportunity for folks to get to meet each other, perhaps for the first time ever, that work across the country together over teams all the time. And it really is a culture building week. And we get to talk about updates and just everyone get on the same page with the same language and shared experience. When we leave from there, it has such a positive impact on communication, giving each other grace. There's an enormous amount of patience that grows as a result of having met the person. You're real. I might think twice before sending you a short email saying, hey, where's my thing? Maybe I stop
Right.
before I send you the nasty gram. I'm actually willing to interact with you because you're my peer. So we're really looking forward to that. We're bringing an amazing keynote speaker and we'll have some fun events. We do an award ceremony. It's really a good time. So I am very much looking forward to that. It's the end of September. Personally, I am really looking forward to a couple of speaking engagements that I have before the end of the year. I've got one in Cleveland, Ohio at the end of next month, and then one at the University of Oxford in November.
Amazing. Sounds like a very good plan.
Yeah, it's going to be a great year.
Exciting. For somebody that wants to learn more about the work you do, that want to learn more about the firm, where can they go online to discover more?
Sure. So our website is pretty expansive. It's got a bajillion pages, but if you want to know more about how we do what we do, you can go to the careers page. We kind of branch out like what our intern to associate program is, what does it look like to be a new attorney, a mid-career attorney, a senior level attorney, a sunsetting, what does a succession plan look like? And
Mhm.
how do you unwind what you've grown over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it's been for you in your career? And we do extensively go into on other pages our core values, our community involvement, and we don't hold anything back. We put it all out there. We're out on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to chat with someone virtually or in person to talk about their own journey and what they'd like to accomplish.
Amazing. And we will make sure to include the links as well under the video so that anybody that wants to find those pages, they can easily do so.
I appreciate it.
Randy, of course. Randy, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Alex. This has been really fun. Thank you.